runners when they're on base. They're hitting into double plays, and Berkman has a bad shoulder. Holiday has a bad back, and Albert is trying to carry this team and be the Albert of old, and this isn't a real vintage Albert Pujols year.
The Cubs were in the news this week. They fired longtime general manager Jim Henry. So it looks like obviously a new GM will come in. Will it be a rebuilding process or a retooling process? We'll find out more. Tom Ricketts, the chairman, will join us later on tonight. What do you see the direction of the Cubs being right now?
Well, I think the Cubs have talent on the field. I think that up the middle with Castro and Barney, I like what I see behind the plate in center field on the in the middle of the diamond. They can pitch with a lot of teams, but they need an attitude change. They need a structure change. They need to get these fans back believing that the Chicago Cubs are a team that they deserve to root for, and I think that this attitude has to come from the top down, and I think Ricketts is starting to do that right now.
One guy they're taking a look at right now, Tyler Colvin, who had that game-winning hit on Friday. He's standing by with our Buster Olney.
Tyler, you were in the room the other day when Jim Henry came down and told you guys that he was being relieved as general manager. What was that like in the room?
You know, it was tough to be in there. It's pretty sad, but, you know, it's part of the business, and, you know, we all hate to see him go, but, you know, I guess it's time to move on.
Now, since you were recalled from the minor leagues, what are the adjustments you've been making?
It's just to relax and go up there and play my game, you know, not try to do too much and just be the guy I am.
Thanks, Tyler. Pedro, to you.
Thanks, Buster. David, you lead the Cardinals with a .314 average. You're also from the St. Louis area. How much pressure do you feel to become kind of one of the better faces on this club?
I'm just trying to do my part. You know, being from St. Louis and being able to play with these guys, it's an amazing feeling. But you know, try and keep it simple and just, you know, come out here every day and do my job. But you know, it's obviously tough. You get pulled in a lot of directions, but it's definitely worth it.
Now, time is running out on you guys. You guys are down to 5 weeks. You trail the Brewers by the most you have all season. How difficult is this task?
Oh, it's extremely difficult. You know, we got a left fielder right now that went through this a few years back and did a pretty amazing job, you know, finding a way to get in the playoffs. So there's hope. You know, I guess we're fading a little bit. Milwaukee, they got a good team over there, good guys, and, you know, they're hot and they're real talented, but there's definitely still a little time left.
All right, David, thank you.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Back to you.
Pedro, thank you very much. Also tonight, as we mentioned, we'll look forward for the Cubs now that they are looking for a new general manager. What is the direction the team will take? Tom Ricketts, the chairman, will join us here in the booth. And look at some of the other contending teams around baseball, the Diamondbacks, Rangers, Brewers, and more, and how they are faring heading into the stretch. And also, we'll try to handicap a very muddled National League MVP race as well. It is the Cardinals, it is the Cubs, it is Wrigley Field in Chicago as the Northsiders go for a sweep of the Cards here tonight. The second oldest stadium currently in use in Major League Baseball. Only Fenway Park is older. Historic Wrigley Field in Chicago, which goes all the way back to 1914 is the year when it was opened, was known then as Weeman Park, then Cubs Park, before being known as Wrigley Field starting in 1926. In 1937, the bleachers were built and the ivy was planted. No night baseball here in Chicago until 1988, a new era here at the corner of Addison and Clark. And welcome to the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. Again, with Fenway Park, Bobby, really the two truly historic ballparks that still exist in Major League Baseball. And I know all baseball fans, when they go to Boston or when they come here, they get a special feeling walking into a ballpark like this.
It's absolutely special, and ESPN has shown the Little League World Series, which is heaven for kids as far as baseball is concerned, and this is heaven for adults.
Dan Shulman to Bobby Valentine here in Chicago. No Oral Hershiser this week. He is at the Little League World Series doing a great job in Williamsport. Bulldog, we're watching you and bringing you Sunday Night Baseball from Wrigley Field here tonight as the Cubs take the field looking to sweep their arch rivals from St. Louis. Tony La Russa has done a lot of winning in his career, but he has not had a whole lot of success here at Wrigley Field. Just 50 wins in 120 games. The batting order for the Cardinals tonight, presented by Taco Bell. Skip Schumacher leads it off at second base. David Freese into the 2 spot tonight. He's the third baseman. Albert Pujols batting third. Matt Holliday batting fourth. Lance Berkman batting fifth, the usual middle of the lineup. John Jay in center field hitting sixth. Yadier Molina, the catcher, will bat 7th. Daniel Descalso is at shortstop tonight, batting 8th because of a couple of injuries for the Cardinals. More on that later. And the starting pitcher tonight for the Cardinals and batting 9th is Jake Westbrook. The Cardinals will take their hacks at 35-year-old right-hander Rodrigo Lopez, who is looking for his 3rd consecutive win.
And he's out on the mound featuring the basic bag of tricks that a pitcher brings to a ball game. He has a fastball, he moves it both ways, a curveball, changeup, slider. He's good through the order a couple of times, but that 3rd time through is usually an Achilles heel for him. And Albert is going to be thinking about going deep here for the first time this year.
We'll check out the defense now for the Cubs, and statistically they are down near the bottom in Major League Baseball with 103 errors, most in the National League. Reed Johnson to Marlon Byrd, Tyler Colvin left to right in the outfield, Aramis Ramirez and 21-year-old Starlin Castro on the left side of the infield, rookie Darwin Barney, and then the veteran Carlos Pena on the right side of the infield. Giovanni Soto will do the catching tonight with Rodrigo Lopez on the mound. Beautiful night. Just a few clouds here and there overhead. 7 o'clock, just past 7 o'clock local time here in Chicago. The breeze blowing out from left to right as we begin play tonight here at Wrigley. And a pitch taken outside for ball 1 as Wally Bell calls the balls and strikes tonight. Steve Schumacher sporting a old school look, as Cardinals do from time to time. You like that?
I like the socks up.
Yep.
Just tough keeping them up.
1-2 the count on Schumacher, who can play second base, can also play the outfield. I like it.
I like the look. They were wearing garters. You have to make sure the garters aren't too tight so they don't cut off circulation, but I like the look.
And a swing and a foul tip held by Soto as Schumacher strikes out 1 down. You can follow Buster Olney and Pedro Gomez, who are with us tonight, on Twitter. Join the talk about all things Sunday Night Baseball. Add hashtag ESPNSNB to your tweets. Let us know what's on your mind. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/ESPN Baseball tonight. A strikeout for Lopez to begin the game, and now here's David Freese. If you want to get Tony La Russa's eyes to light up a little bit, even in the midst of a losing streak, ask him about David Freese. He really likes this young man. Defensively
and offensively, he brings a lot to the table, plays both sides of the ball, and has very good power to right center field.
His biggest problem has been staying healthy the past couple of years, but he's healthy now. Hitting .314 overall, 8 home runs and 40 RBIs on the season. Lays off the breaking ball in the dirt. 2-1 the count.
And Dan, I mentioned the right center field power. A lot of that comes from pitches that are on the plate on the inside third, and you see they're working him away exclusively.
And he takes the ball the other way for a base hit into right field, which will bring Albert Pujols up for the first time tonight.
Now batting first baseman number 5, Albert Pujols.
So you've got Cardinal fans cheering, and there are Cardinal fans here. You've got Cub fans booing, and then you got Cub fans who are maybe thinking, maybe, just maybe, if you buy it, he will come. Albert Pujols Cub jerseys in plain view here at Wrigley. Sharply hit to short, and it gets through Castro into left field.
Starlin Castro got in between on that ball, didn't know if he should backhand it or get in front of it, and consequently it goes by him. When you're making a backhand, you have to start down and come up. He had his glove in the middle, and it's very difficult to go down.
And scored a base hit for Pujols. He came into the at-bat hitting .283, hoping to keep a streak alive that he's had every season in his career of an average of .300 or better. Here's Matt Holliday. Holliday, as you saw, hitless in his last 12 at-bats, still over .300 on the season. A good opportunity for the Cardinals here in the first, as they had yesterday against Matt Garza, but couldn't capitalize. Quickly 0-2. One big problem for the Cardinals, and they are, keep in mind, the highest scoring team in the National League this year, but they have hit into a crazy number of double plays, way more than anybody else in baseball. Now, maybe a little bit of that you can chalk up to, well, they've had more base runners than anybody else in the National League, so all things being equal, they'll hit into a few more double plays. But Tony La Russa says, you know, they don't have a lot of team speed. He doesn't start a lot of runners. So consequently, they will hit into more double plays.
Sometimes, Dan, a double play is when you have men on base and it's a 3-2 count, and the runners run and the hitter swings and misses, and then they throw them out because there's not good foot speed. But in this case, I think if it goes to 3-2, Tony will start the runners because he feels Lopez will not have a strikeout pitch.
Fly ball to right field, caught for the second out, and the runners get back. And that'll bring up Lance Berkman for St. Louis, who was about the hottest hitter on the planet early in the season, April and into May. Has cooled off some, and in fact has not hit a home run in the month of August, but still is tied for fourth in the National League with 28 home runs on the season.
He has 28 home runs, and he has a sore right shoulder. Tony La Russa before the game says he has something there, but he doesn't get treatment. He's a strong, determined hitter.
Fly ball to left field. Caught just in front of the ivy by Reed Johnson. Lopez gets out of it. The Cardinals leave a couple of men on in the top of the first. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. And in part by the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event, now through September 6th. See your Lexus dealer. And Hanes. Look great, feel great in a Hanes undershirt with the lay flat collar. No scores. We go to the bottom of the first here at Wrigley Field, and let's check out the starting lineup tonight for the Chicago Cubs. The lineup presented by Taco Bell. Starlin Castro, Darwin Barney, and Aramis Ramirez. The top third of the lineup. Carlos Pena at first base. The cleanup hitter batting fifth in left field, Reed Johnson, and Marlon Byrd in center field batting sixth. Right fielder Tyler Colvin batting seventh. Giovanni Soto catching into batting eighth, and Rodrigo Lopez pitching and batting ninth. On the mound tonight, the noted sinker baller, a guy who gets a ton of ground balls, Jake Westbrook.
And he tries to throw that sinker in on right-handers and have it move in off the plate from his angle on the first base side.
And there is one of those sinkers, or two-seam fastballs, as it's also known, right there for a strike.
He'll also start it off the plate away to right-handers and catch the outside corner and throw a slider off of that.
Starlin Castro, just 21 years of age, leading the National League in hits with 163, on pace for 210. And a guy who I know, because we've talked about him a couple of times this year in the games we've had, you think the upside is huge for this young man.
Yeah, he's a star in the making. He might lead this league in hits by the end of the year.
Won't get one here. The breaking ball gets him for out number one.
What he did is he started him away with the hard stuff. And he's made let him see what he was going to do. Away, and then he establishes inside. And once he does that, he's able to throw that breaking ball off of the inside fastball for a swing and a miss.
Pretty good sequence by Westbrook against the first batter he faces. Pitched on Sunday night 3 weeks ago in St. Louis against the Cubs, as he evens it up at a ball and a strike on Darwin Barney. And Westbrook was perfect into the 6th inning and then did not get out of the 6th inning as the Cubs went on to win. Barney takes low, 2-1.
The Cubs will feature a lot of right-handed hitters who can take the inside strike and hit it to right field, but they're not very good on outside fastballs and outside breaking balls.
To his left goes Descalso, and plenty enough on the throw to get Barney by a couple of steps. 2 down. The Cardinals are without the services of both Rafael Furcal and Ryan Theriot tonight because of injuries. Terrio's got a hamstring problem. Furcal caught a spike on a piece of rope in the batting cage here at Wrigley, which is ancient. It's in underneath the bleachers out in right field. And he slipped and tried to brace his fall. This happened yesterday. Tried to brace his fall and sprained his thumb when his hands hit the ground as he braced his fall. He's been a Cardinal since the end of July. Have you been? Is it a dungeon out there, that batting cage? There's a broken bat. Base hit down the right field line for Ramirez. Thinking 2. And in there.
That's one of those pitches away that Westbrook wanted to make, but he made it up in the zone. So once it was up in the zone, Ramirez was able to just reach out, hit it off the end of the bat. And it's called a double as that ball goes right off the end of the bat. Mid-thigh. Westbrook's very efficient when he keeps the ball from the knees down. When he throws that ball from the knees to the belt in that hitting zone, he gets hit.
A 2-out double for Ramirez. Westbrook now will face the cleanup hitter for the Cubs, first baseman Carlos Pena, a power threat with 23 home runs on the season, and the wind blowing out to right. You can make a case that the ball Berkman hit in the first inning on a normal night might have been off the wall or maybe in the basket for a home run, but the wind is blowing from the left field corner to the right field corner, so not straight in, not straight out, more of a crosswind tonight here at Wrigley that should favor a left-handed batter like Pena if he can pull the ball.
You made that case and you made it correctly, Dan. The wind kept that ball in the park and will help any balls that are hit in the air to right field. And with that said, 2 pitches to Pena on the inside part of the plate. Some of the viewers might wonder what's Westbrook doing. Pena could just hit that inside pitch to right field and give the Cubs 2 points, but that's incorrect because Pena likes the ball away to pull. If you keep it inside, you'll get him out.
Lays off what looked like a changeup there in the dirt, and the count is 1-2 on Pena.
After a 2-seamer in and a cutter in, he felt that Pena might have been cheating a little on that 0-2 pitch and get him to swing over a changeup. I think he might throw something off the plate away here before he comes back inside, but he will try to finish him off on the inside part of the plate.
Little looper foul, third base side. Picturesque night, as you can see here in Chicago, and as we drove up here along Lake Shore looking out to Lake Michigan, the air show in town here in Chicago today, and reportedly 2 million people down on the beach in downtown to watch the show. Just a gorgeous day here in Chicago.
Yeah, there's a show in the air, there's a show on the beach, there was a show on some of those boats as we came by, Dan. This is quite a place on the absolute perfect day in the summertime.
Cubs winning the first 2 games of the series, 5-4 Friday, 3-0 yesterday. The Cardinals now 9 back of Milwaukee after the Brewers won again today, beat the Mets 6-2. Check swing roller toward third, charged by Freese, and the inning is over. No runs, a base hit, and a man left. No score at the end of 1 here at Wrigley. No scores. We go to the second. Cardinals and Cubs here on Sunday Night Baseball. Dan Schulman and Bobby Valentine with you. Dan Oral Hershiser is at the Little League World Series in Williamsport. As we go to the second inning, John Jay, the center fielder for the Cardinals, leads it off. Has pretty much been the regular since the trade of Colby Rasmus to Toronto a few weeks back. And you can see the numbers he has put up since the deal. He drives the ball well to deep left center field, and he drives it out. Jay goes the opposite way into the wind for a home run.
Jay has a lot of moving parts, but when you give him a pitch that's moving away from him and the entire ball's on the plate, he knows exactly what to do with it. He makes a very good swing at a low fastball and drives it to left center field. When I say he has moving parts, his hands move and his feet move.
Now Yadier Molina on the next pitch, a line drive home run to left field. Home runs on consecutive pitches for the Cardinals off Rodrigo Lopez. First Jay, then Molina. 2-0 St. Louis, just like that here in the top of the second. Now Descalso. When Molina, Bobby, hit that one on a line, that was a rope as it got out of here.
Yeah, it was a real mistake pitch, and he made him pay.
It's a fair ball, backhanded by Pena, feeds Lopez in time, 1 down.
Lopez doesn't have extreme velocity, and he needs extreme location. This is a mediocre fastball thrown up in the center of the plate. It came in and said, "Hit me," and Molina obliged.
We're still celebrating Jay's home run when Molina went deep. So the Cardinals off to a good start, looking to avoid a sweep. First time since the 5th of July the Cardinals have hit back-to-back home runs. Batter Westbrook. If you're St. Louis, just looking at a 9-game deficit, that's a pretty big mountain to climb. The only choice they have is to borrow the old cliche, just to take it 1 game at a time. And we have seen teams make big comebacks. And earlier tonight it was referenced that, you know, Matt Holliday's a guy who played on the Rockies in 2007, of course, when they made a huge comeback and wound up going all the way to the World Series that year. So they've got somebody who's been in this kind of a situation and can tell a story with a happy ending.
And you need hope, and you need belief, and you need talent. Tony La Russa could give them the hope and give them the belief, and then they have to get healthy and let the talent rise to the top.
Strike 3 called. Westbrook gone. Catch a double dip of Major League action on ESPN2's Wednesday Night Baseball. First at 7 Eastern. The Boston Red Sox head to Arlington to take on the Texas Rangers, the leaders in the American League West. Then at 10 Eastern, the White Sox are in Anaheim against the Angels. The Angels have moved within 4 games of Texas after the White Sox throttled the Rangers 10-0 today. The Angels beat Baltimore 7-1. Both games also available online at ESPN3.com. And 1 week from tonight, our Sunday night game, we will be in Arlington as the Rangers host the Angels. And that game's getting a little more interesting, a little more relevant day by day as the Angels make a move. Angels winning 7-1 over the Orioles. Howie Kendrick and Peter Borges both hit home runs for the Angels today. Texas, as mentioned, losing 10-0 to the White Sox. Derek Holland took the loss. The White Sox trying to make a move in the American League Central, but Detroit won't let them. Detroit completed a sweep of the Indians today, winning a wild game by a final of 8-7. And there's strike 3 called at the knees. Schumacher is gone and the inning is over, but not before the Cardinals hit not 1 but 2 home runs, and they hit them on consecutive pitches. John Jay and then Yadier Molina. 2-0 St. Louis.
Get all
2-0 Cardinals, bottom of the second. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Reed Johnson leads it off. Johnson in left field for the Cubs tonight, hitting .348 as a part-time player with the Cubs this year. Year after year seems to be one of the best 4th outfielders in a baseball. Never seems to get that real full-time shot as an everyday guy.
Does extremely well against left-handers, and now he's getting a shot with Mike Quade playing semi-regularly, but getting a lot of at-bats this year.
Once in his career has had more than 500 at-bats. That was in 2004 with Toronto, but generally 300, 400 at-bats, that kind of thing. Was a Dodger last year. Was a Cub for a couple of years before that. Has now come back to Chicago this season. Can play all 3 outfield spots. He'll be followed by the other 2 outfielders for Mike Quade here this half inning, Marlon Byrd and then Tyler Colvin.
Mike Quade likes his ability, but also likes his determination in the attitude that he brings to the game and to his team. The Cubs need more of this type of attitude that is a true grit attitude.
Been a tough season for Mike Quade. Jim Henry fired this week. Carlos Zambrano currently under suspension. A team that has underachieved. 14 games under 500. Sharply hit, but right at Descalso. 1 down. Jim Henry had been the GM of the Chicago Cubs for 10 years, including the 2003 season when they, of course, were 5 outs away from going to the World Series. Also made the playoffs in 07 and 08. Never got into the World Series, slipped back the last couple of years. Some big contracts that are still weighing heavily on this team, which to varying degrees could have been the GM's doing, could have been above him, could have been ownership's doing. Bobby, you know how that works, especially when you're talking about contracts paying 50, 60, sometimes over $100 million over the course of many, many years. Marlon Byrd with a ground ball to second. Schumacher makes the play, 2 down. Your thoughts on Jim Henry's departure and the future of the Cubs?
Well, my thoughts on Jim Henry is that he's so well liked around baseball that I know we're going to see him in another job real soon. He's admired by the players that he put in uniform. They thought that he was a straight shooter and that he was always on their side. This is a quality that will live forever with Jim Henry, and I think as they move forward, they're going to look for someone who deals more with the new metrics, someone who deals a little with a little more of a winning attitude and tradition, and also as Tom Ricketts has said, someone who is ready to build the right foundation that this team can rest on for a long time.
You know what was admirable is it the news didn't come out until he was fired, but Jim Henry was actually fired in late July, but then agreed to stay on to get them through the trading deadline and the deadline to sign their amateur draft picks, and he did. He worked for about a month after he knew that he was going to be fired and still did the job, helping to secure the future for the Chicago Cubs. They're gone in the second. 2-0 Cardinals at the end of 2. A Baseball Tonight update is on the way.
Lake Michigan, just off Lakeshore Drive in downtown Chicago, where the Cubs have just one hit. As they get ready for the top of the third, they trail the St. Louis Cardinals 2-0 at Wrigley Field on ESPN's Sunday Night Baseball. Steve Berthiaume back in our Baseball Tonight studios. Austin Jackson here of the Tigers, a perfect strike from center field to Alex Avila at the plate, and that ends the Tigers win over the Tribe. Detroit sweeps 3 from Cleveland, and the Tigers take a 4.5-game lead over the Indians atop the American League Central. The White Sox beat the Rangers today 10-0 behind 7 innings of 3-hit ball with 6 strikeouts from Gavin Floyd. So Chicago stays 5 games behind Detroit in the AL Central. Texas has lost 3 of 4, so it's 4.5 for the Tigers over the Tribe and 5 over the White Sox. Back to Bobby Valentine and Dan Shulman at Wrigley Field.
Steve, thank you very much. We go to the top of the third, 2-0 for the Cardinals. David Freese will lead it off against Rodrigo Lopez. Home runs by John Jay and Yadier Molina, the offense for the Cards tonight. You know, we happen to be sitting in Tony La Russa's office when Austin Jackson made that throw to end the game and secure the win for the Tigers. And Tony La Russa is extremely good friends with Jim Leyland, the Tigers manager. Ground ball to short for Freese. 1 down, and the moment that Jackson made that throw and won the game for the Tigers, Tony La Russa picked up his phone and left Jim Leyland a message. Leyland had been kicked out of the game, but he didn't pick up his phone. Tony La Russa was so happy for Jim Leyland and left him a really great message about that win. And you know, he's not, maybe not 9 games out. That's a long way right now, but he's thinking about his buddy in Detroit, Jim Leyland, whose Tigers are leading the American League Central. Leyland, of course, a former coach for La Russa, going back to his days in Chicago many years ago.
Oh, it's not that so long ago. That's when I started managing. In the mid-'80s, Jim and Tony were together.
Yep. Pujols lines the ball to center field, drops for a base hit in front of Bird. Tony La Russa's been a major league manager for 33 seasons and has the 3rd most wins of any manager in major league history. Connie Mack, John McGraw, the only 2 ahead of him.
He loves the game of baseball. He loves his players, and he says, as long as I have a swing like this where Albert can get firm on the front side, swinging up and through that fastball that's out over the plate, I'm going to enjoy the game of baseball and manage somewhere else. Or maybe in St. Louis again.
What do you have a hunch? You have a gut feel?
After talking to him today, I have a gut feel that, based on the comment that he made, that usually 7 years is good for a manager in one place, 10 is really extending your stay. He's been there 16 years now in St. Louis.
John Mozeliak, the GM, looking on. Yeah, Tony feels that after a while, the players need a different voice, that you can overstay your welcome as a manager, but he has stayed a lot longer than.
Well, his word is gospel, and many of these players march to his beat, and they totally respect his baseball acumen.
Holiday lines the ball into left center. That's a base hit. Pujols around second. And will be out at third on a strike thrown by Marlon Byrd.
Well, at times you could take advantage of an outfielder who takes things for granted, thinking the ball was hit into left center. Albert's thinking maybe it's center fielder. Marlon Byrd is taking it for granted that he's not going to go to third, but not Marlon. He plays the game hard all the time. He feels the ball off his left, throws off his right, throws a strike, and there's no contest at third base. Bad decision by Albert, trying to make something happen. If, in fact, Marlon came in and fielded that ball off his right foot, he would then have would have had to take 2 extra steps, and that might have been the difference of Albert being safer out, but fielding off the left and coming up throwing made it no contest.
So 2 down and a runner at first for Lance Berkman. Berkman, one of a number of significant players on this roster whose contracts are up or could be up depending on team decisions at the end of this season. He just signed a 1-year deal with the Cardinals. Says he would welcome the chance to come back. Of course, most notably, Albert Pujols' contract is up. The Cardinals have team options on Chris Carpenter, Adam Wainwright, and Yadier Molina. They could pick them up, let them go, or not pick up the option and try to re-sign the players to cheaper or multi-year deals that would work out for both sides.
And you can see that Berkman has this right shoulder situation where he could not extend and really reach out for that ball that was up and away, a ball that he normally hammers in the left center field. And this, as he steps out here, I'm sure he's just feeling that shoulder, making sure it's right before he gets back in the box.
What do you think, Bobby? It looked like everybody might have been fooled on this pitch.
That was a gift. You're not supposed to throw a ball down the middle on 0-2. Everybody knows that, especially with a great hitter up there. So we'll call it a ball, even though Wally Bell knows that ball was a strike on 1-2.
And the breaking ball lifted in the air, center field, inning over. Terrific throw by Marlon Byrd, helping out his pitcher Rodrigo Lopez. Some Wrigley Field history when we come back after this.
You're going to have the
World Series of Poker main event.
Back for the bottom of the third, the hometown Cubs trailing the Cardinals 2-0. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell from historic Wrigley Field in Chicago. You can see the seats not only in the ballpark but across the street, across Waveland and Sheffield, the rooftops as they are known here in Chicago. This is the look from Waveland Avenue. You're across the street up on the top of a building looking into the ballpark, and then you've got a similar view from the rooftops on Sheffield Avenue beyond right field. Now, baseball, of course, is the most famous sport. The Cubs are the most famous tenant that Wrigley Field has had over the years, but it's hardly the only sport that has been played here. The Chicago Bears played here for 50 years, from 1921 to 1970. Barely enough room for a football field. Here also some college football recently, Northwestern and Illinois last November. The Winter Classic, the Red Wings and the Blackhawks in 2009, and my personal favorite, they had ski jumping here at Wrigley in 1944. And from the look on that picture, it looks like the slope, the jump might have started from right about where we are right now, just coming down from behind home plate and launching up into the air before landing, oh, I don't know, maybe second base.
They had him go into the wind because the wind in the wintertime comes off that lake, and that would propel him up even further as the long jumpers were there.
That is great stuff. You can see the football field. You can see the lines for the football field there in 1944 down below as the ski jumping is going on. The football field ran from first base toward left field. And apparently there was perhaps a foot or two of extra space beyond each end zone for them to fit the football field into the field of play. So guys must have been running into padded walls, brick walls when they were laying out to try to catch a football or make a play in the end zone back when the Bears called this home.
And more football games played here at Wrigley than in any other NFL stadium over the years that the Bears played here.
Giovanni Soto Leading off the bottom of the third for the Cubs, who trail 2-0. The Cardinals trying to avoid a sweep here in Chicago this weekend. Ripped into left field, a base hit, maybe more. Holiday will cut it off. Big turn by Soto, but he'll head back with a leadoff single.
Soto knows batting eighth. What he needs to do is get on base and let his pitcher bunt him over, so as he has an 0-2 count, he takes the pitch down in the zone twice. He's seeing it well, and he takes a very close pitch away until he gets the pitch in to follow off, and now he's confident he can hit the pitch in and takes it down the left field line.
That'll bring up the pitcher, Rodrigo Lopez. Bunts through it for strike one.
That wasn't a very good effort by Lopez. What you're going to see here is sinker balls thrown hard and thrown away because his heart might be in his bunt, but his rear end is not. He's going over towards his dugout with his rear end and towards the ball with his bat. He has to commit a little more to get to that outside pitch to get a bunt down.
Lopez, a well-traveled guy, has pitched with the Padres, Orioles, Rockies, Phillies, Diamondbacks, and the Cubs.
And that was such a poor attempt. Tony La Russa was checking to see if possibly a hit and run was on, and they were going to take the bunt off. I think the bunt's back on.
1 ball, 1 strike the count. Lopez coming to the Cubs in a minor league deal with the Braves back in late May. Ivan De Jesus, the third base coach. You walk by him and say, boy, he looks like he could still play. He's still in great shape.
Fabulous condition. Throws half an hour of batting practice every day. Waves him around and has fun doing everything he does in uniform as he has for the last 42 years.
Fouled off, 1-2. Well, if you're Mike Quaddy and you've seen those 2 attempts, do you keep it on?
Well, he will not bunt the ball in fair territory from what we have seen so far. The jeopardy is if you have him swing, he's a double play waiting to happen. So this is a situation you just hope he bunts the ball foul and not back hard to the pitcher for a double play and just gets out of there and you get to the top of the order.
That's exactly what he does. And he's getting booed by the Wrigley fans here for that poor effort.
Well, you think a pitcher could have a better effort than this. This is a slider that was thrown at him a little, and he was leaving and then trying to bunt. Obviously, you see the eyes closed because he really doesn't know what he's doing when he has the bat in his hand. And you know, at 35 years old, you would expect a guy to be able to handle the bat a little better than that.
So back to the top of the order now for Starlin Castro. He struck out his first time up.
And Dan, Starling is leading the league with 163 hits, mainly because he thinks he can hit all pitches. That is a very good thing for his confidence and a very bad thing for his on-base percentage.
Not a very patient hitter, although he's ahead of the count, 2-0 right here. For a 21-year-old to potentially lead the league in hits is a pretty rare thing. You can see Al Kaline, Ty Cobb are the only 2 hitters ever to lead their league in hits at a younger age than Starlin Castro is right now. And again, he might not do it, but potentially on his way to leading the National League in hits this year. That's some good company.
It's great company, and this at-bat is a very good at-bat. He loves the pitch inside. He can take the pitch inside and inside out it. There's been 3 pitches away, and he hasn't bid at one of them. Now he has the take sign, and he should get a good look at this because on 3-1 he'll get a pitch to hit.
Ball 4.
So in essence, if Lopez bunted him over, you have the same situation. If in fact those 4 balls were going to be thrown, and It's strange, Dan. Last time we saw Westbrook pitch, he was just cruising along, and then all of a sudden he lost it. And with Castro up there with 21 walks to his credit to date, he walked him on 4 pitches.
To bring up Darwin Barney, the second baseman. Barney, a rookie, has 14 hits in his last 7 games, hitting close to 300. And again, if you're a Cubs fan and you're trying to be optimistic and figure out some things that you can look forward to in the future, the double play combination of Castro and Barney certainly is something to hang your hat on. And now Molina with a well-timed visit to the mound.
After 6 straight balls that missed on both sides of the plate, 4 pitches away to Castro, 2 pitches in to Barney. Molina went out there to say, we better throw a breaking ball here, even though it's 2-0 to the second place hitter. You don't have any release on your fastball away nor your fastball in. I think he said, let's just throw a little slider here, a little get me over slider, and see if we can get back into the count.
By the way, Dave Duncan, the pitching coach for the Cardinals, not with the team. He has left the team for personal reasons. Derek Lilliquist, normally the bullpen coach, is the acting pitching coach right now for the Cardinals. There he is, former Major League pitcher.
And he actually threw a fastball on the inside corner, exactly where Barney would like the pitch to be if he stays within himself and hits the ball over the second baseman's head.
Fly ball to left field, but just in enough on him that he couldn't get it all. 2 down. So now 2 on, 2 out, and the hottest hitter for the Cubs, Aramis Ramirez, comes up. He's got 24 home runs on the season, including, Bobby, 1 yesterday.
Well, he's going to hit 30 home runs this year and very well might have 100 RBIs. The Cub faithful wish that he started off a little better so the team didn't fall behind so much, but he's earning his salary.
And putting up terrific numbers since the 1st of June. Had a dismal start to the season, but as hot a hitter as there's been in the National League the last couple of months. Bottom of the 3rd inning here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The visiting Cardinals have a 2-0 lead. Trying to avoid a sweep here at the hands of their rivals. But the Cubs with something going on. 2 on, 2 out. A lot at stake for the Cardinals as they try to avoid slipping even further out of the race in the National League Central. They are 9 games back right now of the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers won again today. They have won 22 out of 25 games to turn what was a tight, wasn't that long ago, 3 or 4 team race in the National League Central into this, a 9-game lead for the Brewers.
Molina went out there to say we have to make a better pitch than that. This guy has been hot. He's swinging the bat well. Let's work the corners and work him in off the plate because he wants these RBIs, and you could get him to expand the strike zone. Threw the first pitch right down the middle.
And the second pitch is hit back up the middle into center field, a base hit. Soto scores. RBI single Ramirez, 2-1.
Here's Molina. With 1 strike, he got down and he's way off the plate. He wants that ball 4 inches outside, and he throws a slider that comes right down the middle of the plate. As Westbrook comes to back up the plate, he talks again with Molina about the location. And here they go. And he says, no, that's right down the middle. Let's go. Work it to me. You've got to have better control than that. It's 2-1.
And here's Carlos Pena. Big swing and a miss, 0-1.
That was a well-controlled pitch. He wanted to throw that cutter in and up, and he threw it exactly where he wanted it. That's a big window of opportunity to get Carlos Pena out. The balls that are in and up, the ball away, he crushes. So you want to throw pitches that are way off the plate, outside, or in here.
Shallow center. And caught by a charging John Jay to end the inning. The Cubs get one. So the folks here at Wrigley, something to be happy about. Their team now only down a run. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by Mazda. We believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. And Verizon, the destination for tablets powered by 4G LTE. Now, as we mentioned, just a picture-perfect kind of evening here in Chicago. We're on the north side at Wrigley Field. Not too hot, not too humid. Beautiful day, gorgeous night. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. Cardinals and Cubs, a 2-1 lead for St. Louis. John Jay, who homered his first time up, leads it off. And takes a strike from Rodrigo Lopez. Jay and Yadier Molina homered on consecutive pitches back in the second. Tony La Russa gave Jay a day off on Friday. He had been struggling, although is now 3 for his last 6 coming into tonight, so 4 for his last 7, including a home run, as he came off the bench Friday, started Saturday. Alan Craig got a start in center field one game. Skip Schumacher got a start in center field. There's Craig, who was started at 5 different positions. If you play for Tony La Russa, you better have a lot of flexibility and a lot of different gloves, because you just never know what you're going to see when you walk into the clubhouse and look at the scorecard.
Yeah, many teams build their depth with individuals who could play one position and then other individuals who can back them up. Tony La Russa and many other managers like versatility on their bench so that their depth can be spread out more.
And it seems to help them when they get the inevitable injuries, and a Craig has to fill in, or a Jay fills in for, at the time, a slumping Rasmus.
Exactly. You'd like to be 3 deep at every position. Often the catching position is 2 deep with full-time catchers and a guy who can catch in an emergency.
Schumacher filling that kind of a role as well, playing multiple positions. Descalso has done it. But all the depth and all the versatility they've got their work cut out for them. 9 back of Milwaukee. 6 games left with the Brewers, so a chance to beat the team they're chasing. But Milwaukee, the hottest team in baseball right now. Fair ball. And it skips up into the seats before bouncing back into the field of play. It will be a double for Jay. Well, let's go back earlier, just last inning, in fact. Albert Pujols at first, Matt Holliday with a base hit into left center field, and Pujols out, Bobby, trying to go first to third.
Yeah, he actually thought he could outrun this ball. He had a decent secondary lead, and he makes a good turn around second base, and then he just decides he sees Marlin picking up that ball. He thinks he could outrun the arm of a very good outfielder, Marlon Byrd, and he was incorrect with that thought.
Out by 0.3 of a second, which with the live eye from down to the field looks like an eternity. There's a little chopper to short, only play to first. Molina retired. Jay takes third, 1 out.
And as bad a base running as that was with Albert, that was good base running there with Jay. But as you see, Marlon Byrd comes up, he feels this ball off his left foot, and that allows him to get to his right foot and then shuffle underneath his body to make this throw accurately and in time. That's the way it's taught. Good job, Marlon.
Cubs thrilled to have Byrd back after he missed several weeks, suffered the facial fractures, hit by a pitch earlier this season, and wearing a protective flap on his batting helmet right now. Infield in here for the Cubs. And a strike taken by Descalso. Cardinals get any further ahead. Just the 4th inning, 1-run game. You can see a little bit tighter on the left side of the infield, right side from your vantage point there in center, but the third baseman, the shortstop, a little bit tighter.
This is the top of the 4th inning. The Cubs are 1 run down, and they feel that Descalso has not played very much, and that if pitches are made in, off the plate, or down and away, you'll get a weak ground ball to this infield and keep the runner at third base rather than giving them a run by playing back.
And he waves at one for strike 3. Very big out for Rodrigo Lopez, especially with the pitcher coming up now with 2 outs.
Some people wonder why not walk in with the pitcher coming up, because you need 2 outs to get out of the inning. And there Mike Quaddy's picking the 8th hitter and the 9th hitter as the 2 guys he wants to end the inning rather than the 9th hitter and the leadoff hitter.
Jake Westbrook takes a strike. Westbrook called out on strikes in his first at bat tonight. Just 3 for 37 on the season.
And Lopez here pitching out of the windup. Very few major league pitchers pitch out of the windup these days with a man on third base. You can often balk if the runner breaks a little early and you step off with the wrong foot. Jose Oquendo knows the play. Matter of fact, we used to work on it when I was a third base coach and he was a base runner. When a runner's like this with 2 feet on the mound, you break early while he's looking in for his sign and see if he knows that he has to step off with the right foot.
Sharply hit, short hop nicely though by Barney, and the inning is over as the Cardinals leave a base runner on at third. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Dan Shulman and Bobby Valentine with you here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. We go to the bottom of the 4th inning. It's a 2-1 game. The Cardinals leading the Cubs, trying to avoid a sweep. Jake Westbrook facing Reed Johnson to begin the inning. Johnson, the Cub left fielder, grounded out to short his first time up. And a good sinker right there with the knees for a strike. Five of the 9 outs that Jake Westbrook has tonight on the ground. And he will annually be among the leaders in Major League Baseball at getting ground balls because of that sinker. Roy Halladay is another guy who's up there. Charlie Morton with Pittsburgh, it's a guy this year has gotten a ton of ground balls. Slider down and away, 2-1.
David Freese is a very important factor when Westbrook is on, because he'll get ground balls hit down the line off of his sinker.
Johnson gets one in the air to right center field, a base hit. Jay cuts it off and will hold Johnson to a leadoff single. Between innings, our Pedro Gomez with Tony La Russa.
Tony, the road trip hasn't been quite what you wanted it to be. How important is tonight just to get out of here without being swept?
Well, you know, when you're going into a 3-game series, the worst you can do is -3 when you're trying to get over 500 and stay in contention. So same situation last time Pittsburgh. We won the getaway game, win the night. You survived it. We're not prospering, but this is an important win.
Your hitters seem to be seeing Rodrigo Lopez very well. What has been the key to their success so far?
Well, we're getting hits, but you know, there's 2 runs on the board, 2 on home runs. You know, we missed a shot in the first, and now again didn't execute here. But I mean, as the game gets on, he gets all his in and out and softer going. Early on, he's a little firm, and we've been on him, but he'll start changing speeds.
Thanks, Tony.
So Tony La Russa enjoying the lead, but lamenting the missed opportunities that the Cardinals had in the first inning and in the 4th inning could be leading by more than just the 1 run. As you can see, they've got 7 hits in 4 innings off Lopez, but just 2 runs on the homers by John Jay and Yadier Molina. Into center and caught by a sliding Jay. One center fielder retires another.
John Jay is showing everyone why Tony La Russa thinks he can be an everyday center fielder. He just cut a ball off in the gap by going back, and now he's coming in with a perfect jump and a sliding catch to really solidify what they're trying to do and keep these Cub runners off the base. Looked like a double off the bat of Johnson that he backhanded and quickly threw into second, and that looked like a bloop that he got a great jump on and took the hit away.
Now Tyler Colvin. Colvin grounding out his first time tonight. Has been up and down this year with the Cubs. Hit 20 home runs a year ago, but has spent most of this season down in the minors, and another younger player getting a chance to try to play himself into the plans for 2012 here in the last few weeks of 2011.
I really think this is one of the experiments failed this year. He should have taken a step forward in the right direction. I think that Tyler is a very good player. He can hit. He will hit with power if you give him enough at-bats, and needs to get his at-bats.
And with Fukudome gone, there's a spot out there right now, and Colvin trying to grab it. There are the numbers a year ago. Impressive power for Colvin. Three and 0. Ball 4. Now you've been watching it and you've been enjoying it. The Little League World Series presented by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes continues on ESPN2 and ESPN. Tomorrow from Williamsport, elimination games for some U.S. teams. Georgia, Kentucky at 4 Eastern, and then at 8 o'clock Eastern, Louisiana against Clinton County, Pennsylvania, just 28 miles from Williamsport. That great scene a couple of nights ago with 41,000 people at Labadie Stadium to watch that game. Both games also available online at ESPN3.com and in 3D on ESPN 3D. It's been amazing to watch the talent that these young kids have, Bobby, and also the enthusiasm with which they play the game, the sportsmanship. It's just a great event. As
I said, baseball heaven for everyone under 13 years old is Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and our guys are doing a great job of covering it.
Definitely.
Pick off.
And back in just safely at first is Colvin. Saw a couple of pitchers in the Little League World Series throw in excess of 70 miles an hour over the last couple of days. And that's from 46 feet away. That's the equivalent of a mid-90s fastball at the major league level, right?
Exactly. The young men have the exact same amount of time that these major leaguers have to react to the pitch, and that's why you see very few of them getting a hit.
As we mentioned, Clinton County, Pennsylvania, the sentimental favorite for fans in and near Williamsport. They had 41,000 in excess of that Friday night, 33,000 last night. They've got to win tomorrow to stay alive. Offense is down, not only in the majors, in Little League as well. And Huntington Beach, California has moved to 2-0. There's a swing and a miss by Soto. 2 down. Also some very, very talented international teams, including Japan, Mexico, Venezuela, and so forth.
Now you have to have this, see the outfield defense will start creeping in after the display that Lopez showed trying to bunt the ball. The only chance of him getting a hit is going to be a weak single You can't allow to run the score with 2 outs if, in fact, he somehow makes contact with one of these pitches on the outside part of the plate.
St. Louis outfielders all creeping in 3 or 4 steps after that last pitch. Oh, 0-2. Johnson at second, to Colvin at first, 2 down, and the Cubs trailing 2-1 in the bottom of the 4th here at Wrigley.
Tommy Lasorda always said if you fielded your position and hit your position and bunted your position as a pitcher, you'd win 4 more games a year.
So suffice to say, you're not giving Lopez a perfect score of 4 out of 4 in the extra categories.
No, I'd say that his winning percentage is what it is because he hasn't been able to handle the bat and field his position.
Two and 2.
Now this is a pitch of reckoning. You have to make a pitch to get him out here because going 3 and 2 allows that bloop single to score a run.
Now the runner's on the move.
And I'm sure if Lopez has been watching, he's taking this pitch. So Colvin walked on 4 pitches. Castro walked on 4 pitches. Westbrook has anything but pinpoint control, and he needed a strike there. I'm not sure he could throw a strike here.
Ground ball to second. And the inning is over. 2 men left on at the end of 4. 2-1. The Cardinals lead the Cubs. Top of the order coming up for St. Louis. MLB.TV, baseball everywhere. Watch over 100 live out-of-market games per week online and on your favorite devices. Visit MLB.TV for details. A live shot from outside Wrigley Field. The scoreboard on the marquee on the outside of the stadium at the corner of Addison and Clark. Dan Shulman to Bobby Valentine. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. There's your ride back, Bobby.
Yes. Jump on and see the site. It's only about $60 from here to the hotel. It's a nice little ride.
And about 4.8 miles we learned yesterday, right? But that's a whole other story.
That is another story. Thank you. Exactly 4.8 miles.
Skip Schumacher. Nice play by Barney, 1 down. In between innings, Cubs manager Mike Quade with armbuster only.
Mike Quade, what are you seeing your at-bats against Westbrook so far?
Well, you know what, and he's 70 pitches through 4, so he's normally got a great sinker, and he's, you know, I think we've done a decent job being patient and putting some hits together. Long way to go.
You guys have won 14 out of 19. What's turned the last few weeks?
A little bit of everything, Bust. I mean, I think we've played better defensively. We've scored some runs and hit some home runs, and the bullpen's been excellent, and we've gotten some decent pitching. So, you know, when you go through something like this, usually everybody's picking up the slack and everybody's contributing.
Mike, thanks. Dan, back to you.
Buster, thank you. Yes, the Cubs are playing well. Yes, they played well down the stretch last year after they were out of contention. It went 24-13 in their last 37 games. Which is one of the reasons why Mike Quade got the job this year. But now with Jim Hendry gone, let go this week as the general manager of the Cubs, what is the future of Mike Quade? Got another year on his deal. Tom Ricketts, the chairman of the Chicago Cubs, will join us in the booth next half inning. We'll try to get as much information we can out of him about the future of the ball club. Cub fans want to know. Cub fans want a winner. Two balls, 2 strikes the count. And in the National League Central, there is no evil empire, as the Yankees were called at one point. In fact, the Cubs, year after year, generally speaking, spend more money on their payroll than any other team in the National League Central. St. Louis, Milwaukee, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Houston. The Cubs are the big spenders in this division, but doesn't necessarily mean they're the big winners. Backhanded by Ramirez and dug out at first smartly by Pena for the second out.
We often talk about being down and then coming up. On this throw to first base, Pena does a fabulous job of what we call scooping it. As the ball comes across the diamond, he has the glove down, and on the one hop, he comes up to take that hop away. Start down and come up. You don't have to look at it. You could close your eyes because it's all a perceptual skill. Nice job, Carlos.
A 2-1 lead for the Cardinals in the top of the 5th inning. Home runs by John Jay and Yadier Molina back in the 2nd. On back-to-back pitches for the Cardinals. The Cubs got their run on an RBI single by Aramis Ramirez in the bottom of the 3rd. Here's Albert Pujols. A couple of base hits already has raised his average to 287. Don't count him out just yet for that 330 and 100 season that he has done all 10 seasons he's been a big leaguer. He's still got a shot at it here in season number 11.
And with 2 outs and no one on, Lopez is going to be very careful.
Not careful enough, Bobby. Deep into the bleachers, number 31 on the season for Pujols. His 6th home run this season against the Cubs, his first here at Wrigley Field.
He started him off with a breaking ball away off the plate and then threw his slowest pitch of the game for strike 1 and then a fastball down the middle. He deserved to have it hit again.
Holiday with a bouncer deep in the hole at short. Castro overthrows first, and Holiday's aboard. And the ball went out of play, so Holiday is going to be awarded second. It'll be a base hit and then E6.
And when we say that he made a mistake, that's center cut, and Albert has the most perfect swing in the game of baseball. You could see how he got his stride. He got a pitch down the middle. There's no over swinging. He likes to say he stays inside the ball with his hands. Of course he does, because if he was outside the ball with his hands, the ball would hit him in his elbow. But it's a very good swing, as he does as well as anyone.
Strike taken by Lance Berkman. Albert Pujols has now played 171 games against the Cubs. As you can see the numbers he's put up on Sunday Night Baseball. In 171 career games against the Cubs, he has hit 53 home runs. Got him at second. Holiday caught napping and the inning is over, but not before Pujols hits the Cardinals' 3rd home run of the game off Rodrigo Lopez.
Hi, George Weber. August is bringing.
3-1, the Cardinals lead the Cubs. We go to the bottom of the 5th. Sunday Night Baseball from Wrigley Field in Chicago. And there's a bouncing ball for a base hit through the left side for Starlin Castro. National League leading 164th hit of the season for Castro. Dan Shulman, Bobby Valentine, and the chairman of the Chicago Cubs, Tom Ricketts, is with us here at Wrigley. Tom, thanks for joining us tonight.
No, it's great to be here. Great to have you guys here, too.
And you just told us, we knew you were from the area, but you're really from the area. I mean, just a building right across the street?
Well, when I was single, I used to live in one of the buildings right across the street here. Yeah, and right above a bar, and come to a lot of games. And
nice. And you met your wife?
Center field bleachers.
Nice.
So this was destiny.
Yeah, it was actually during an air show, 1991, and I think the opponent was the Braves, but it was during an air show, too. So it's kind of like an anniversary for us.
Did you propose to her at Wrigley Field?
No, I didn't get away with that.
Here's Darwin Barney. 3-1, the Cardinals lead. The Cubs winning the first 2 games of the series. Runner going. And a bouncer off the glove of Descalso, who is going over to cover second. It works beautifully for the Cubs, and they've got men on the corners.
Well, there with a 1-ball count, Mike Quaddy puts on the hit and run. And Darwin Barney does an excellent job knowing that the defense will be covering with the left side, thinking that Barney's going to hit the ball to the right side, and he pulls this sinker with the shortstop covering, and it just deflects off of his glove. Normally, the second baseman will cover with a right-handed hitter, but in this situation, Barney picked out the shortstop, thinking you're going to try to.
Aramis Ramirez hits a screamer to center field, caught by Jay. Tagging at third, Castro will come in to score. You've proven to be good luck for your team already here.
Yeah, this is all right. I'll sit up here for a while.
Well, let's talk about some of the recent events. Obviously, your team has been in the news for a number of reasons recently. Let's start with the dismissal of General Manager Jim Henry. Why now, and what next?
Okay, well, obviously, Jim's been a terrific general manager for the Cubs for a long time, and he has had a great career here. You know, we just got to the point that we thought that maybe we hadn't quite won enough games in the last couple of years, and it might help to just get some fresh leadership and see if we can't take the team from where Jim got it to the next level.
Runner going. And off the glove of Molina to the backstop, and into second is Barney. Well, I know you can't mention names or talk about specific candidates, but tell us what your philosophy is going forward when you choose a new GM.
Well, you know, I think that you know, when we talked about the other day, you know, in our first press conference, was we're going to look at someone with a real strong focus in player development, someone who can add some analytical expertise to the organization, and someone who comes from a winning culture. You know, I think that those three things, if we start there, we really can't go wrong.
Pena 0 for 2 on the night. Do you have a list in your head, or do you have a time frame when you want to get this done?
Well, I don't really have a list. Time frame wise, obviously you really can't have a lot of the more substantive discussions till after the season is over. So I think we have the next 6 or 7 weeks to be as prepared as possible to kind of think through a list of potential candidates and get out and talk to who's available as soon as we can, and then hopefully get it done as soon as we can after the season, because you don't have much time before the free agent market opens and the winter meetings and all that stuff. So, and on top of that, you have to get your organizational meetings in there somewhere. So you want to be pretty nimble once the game's end.
With Tom Ricketts, the chairman of the Chicago Cubs, Dan Shulman and Bobby Valentine, the Cardinals leading the Cubs 3-2. We're in the bottom of the 5th inning. Cubs trying to sweep their rivals from St. Louis. Runner at second, 1 down for Carlos Pena. Swing and a miss, 2-2. How do you balance, Tom? I mean, this is a big city, this is a big market team, and obviously, I mean, you're part of the fan base. Everybody wants a winner. How do you balance, you know, go out, free agents, try to win soon, versus more of a long-term goal within, you know, developing within the organization?
Well, I think you have to start with the realization that there really are no shortcuts. The way you're going to be consistently successful is through player development. We went the extra mile on our draft picks this year, and that's where you got to start. You got to bring in the right guys. You got to give them good coaching, and the other thing we've worked really hard on is facilities. We got to improve the facilities that we have throughout the organization. But you know, there are no shortcuts. If you find a free agent, just be thoughtful about the kind of contract you give them and how it will affect the organization in the future.
Bobby, a little chirping from the Cardinal dugout.
Yeah, you know, Westbrook's been all over the place, and then he makes a couple close pitches, and Tony's trying to get the umpire to squeeze the plate a little or make it a little wider for his side. I don't think Wally's going to go for it.
A towering fly ball to right field. Berkman makes the catch on the track. 2 down.
Well, Tom, your family has purchased this team, and your sister, your brother, yourself are actually running the baseball team, which is very commendable. That you're there, you're going to work it. You're not just going to say, hey, we have this on our assets sheet. We're going to put sweat, we're going to put our time, we're going to put our effort into making this what you want it to be.
Yeah, all the siblings. I have 2 brothers and a sister, and we're all on the board, and I'm here every day. It's my job to you know, we've got a lot of work to do, both on the baseball side, as we're talking about tonight, and on the business side too. There's a lot of things that we can be doing better. So it's a big project, but I think we're off to an okay start, and we're looking forward to keeping it going.
Reed Johnson, the batter. You were in the bleachers earlier tonight?
I was, yeah. I went out and said hi to some folks, and I usually walk around the game 3 or 4 innings and hand out baseballs to kids, tickets for people in the upper deck, that kind of thing.
What's the message? What's the prevailing message Cub fans give to you? What do they want?
Cub fans are the greatest fans on the planet. There's no question about that. They're very, very supportive. They just want to see the organization take that next step. And if what happened this past couple of days helps us do that, then they're 100% behind it.
Is there anything you can tell us that we don't know about Carlos Zambrano and his situation right now?
Yeah, the only thing we can say about Carlos, obviously, what his actions in Atlanta were unacceptable, and not what you want from anyone on any team anywhere. But the fact is that it's the union's involved now, so we just got to play it out and see how it turns out.
Are you open to him pitching for the Cubs again?
I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I have a hard time imagining that, but like I said, I got to see how it all works out.
A pop-up for Pujols to end the inning. The Cubs get one, now trail 3-2 at the end of 5. Tom, thanks for joining us. Best of luck with the Cubs.
No, thanks to you guys. Have a great night. Enjoy Wrigley.
Best.
Tom Ricketts, the chairman of the Cubs, thanks to him for joining us. We're at the end of 5 here at Wrigley with a Baseball Tonight update on the way after this break. Steve, thank you. To the top of the 6th inning we go here at Wrigley. It's the Cardinals 3 and the Cubs 2. Dan Shulman to Bobby Valentine, and Steve talking about the Little League World Series. That's where our buddy Oral Hershiser is, the Bulldog, working in Williamsport this weekend and next weekend. Doing a great job along with the rest of the team there for ESPN, bringing you great coverage of the Little League World Series. Lance Berkman 0 for 2 on a fly ball to left field and a fly ball to center field. And a strike at the knees, 1-1. Our thanks again to the chairman of the Chicago Cubs, Tom Ricketts, for coming on. Obviously not the easiest time for him to join us, with him firing his general manager, having Carlos Zambrano suspended, all just in the last little while. Berkman retired, 1 down. Who will the next general manager of the Cubs be? Well, Tom Ricketts couldn't comment, but Buster Olney can give us his thoughts.
Guys, he talked to you about some of the criterion he's going to use. He's also talked about wanting someone with experience. There could be some really high-profile candidates for general manager available. Perhaps Billy Beane, who knows that the Oakland situation is not getting better. Brian Cashman, the Yankees general manager, whose contract is up on October 30th. Maybe Andrew Friedman, who's an intriguing possibility. He might have American League East fatigue. Or Pat Gillick, who was just inducted in the Hall of Fame. Friedman is an interesting candidate because it looks like he's going to have a chance to be the general manager of the Houston Astros in his hometown team. Question is, does he stay in Tampa Bay where they built a great thing, or does he take a challenge elsewhere? Certainly going to Chicago would give him the most resources, Dan.
Buster, thank you. It is a challenge, but as you say, there are resources, there is money available, and Bobby, everybody knows at some point theoretically the Cubs are going to win a World Series. It's been 103 years now, but everybody knows, players are competitive, managers are competitive, general managers are competitive. If you can be the guy to win a championship here, you will go down in history. And I would imagine that even though this team has struggled, this is still a much sought after, enviable position in Major League Baseball.
Absolutely. I think that at least 3 of the 4 that Buster mentioned would cherish the idea of being at the helm here in Chicago. And it's going to be an interesting next 6 weeks to see what other names surface and to see how the Ricketts family comes up with their choice.
And there's Tom Ricketts, true to his word, spending some time in the stands, getting to know the fans, talking to them, addressing their concerns, getting to know the people.
Getting to know a Milwaukee Brewer fan.
He's not down in the boxes. He's up there. He's getting to know everybody. Was out in the bleachers earlier tonight. Making nice with a Brewers fan. Cardinal fan. On the appeal, he didn't go. And some decisions will have to be made. Aramis Ramirez is a free agent. They've still got some big contracts. Soriano, Dempster, Zambrano. What's the future of Zambrano? Do they go out and sign some free agents in the offseason?
John Jay's at the plate right now, Dan, and he's not in the future of the Chicago Cubs, but he is in the future of the St. Louis Cardinals. Having a very good night tonight, taking a fastball away and driving it to left center, fastball in, driving it down the right field line.
Pulls it foul, having another good at bat.
And what he needs now is a fastball down the middle that he hits it up the middle for a base hit to center, and he will have taken this 10th pitch of the at bat and hit the ball all around the field.
2 for 2 tonight, 5 for 8 in the series, and he'll draw the walk. Ball's loose and live, but Jay will stop at first. We've got some non-Cub news right now. Back down to Buster.
Guys, Jason Stark has confirmed that Jared Weaver has agreed to a 5-year, $85 million extension with the Angels. Certainly for the Angels, this is big news because Weaver is eligible for free agency after the 2012 season. And keep in mind, he's represented by Scott Boras, and almost every time the Scott Boras clients will elect free agency when they get this close. Well, instead, Jared Weaver decides to stay with the Angels.
All right, Buster, thank you. Great news for the Angels and their fans. Weaver is scheduled to pitch on Wednesday night on ESPN in Game 2 with a doubleheader as they take on the Chicago White Sox. Yadier Molina will be the batter. Mark Riggins, the pitching coach, is out to the mound to buy some time as the bullpen gets busy. Left-hander James Russell and right-hander Jeff Samardzija are up. And Rodrigo Lopez, generally, Bobby, is not a guy who goes very deep into a ball game.
No, that third time through the lineup is usually a telling tale, and he's gotten through it almost now for his third time through. I don't think he'll be allowed to go the fourth time.
He's got to feel a little bit fortunate to have only given up 3 runs. You give up 9 hits, walk a batter. 3 of the hits are homers. Yet he's only allowed 3 runs. One of the reasons Marlon Byrd throwing out Albert Pujols at third. Another reason Matt Holliday getting picked off at second. So that has helped minimize the damage. The batter, Yadier Molina.
Yeah, the pickoff at second was really big with 2 outs. After Starling Castro threw a ball over the head of first baseman Carlos Pena, he picked his team up with a beautiful timing pickoff to get him out of the inning.
Fouled off the facing of the second deck and back down into the lower seats by Molina. He has homered and grounded out. The home run is 10th of the season. Another guy whose contract is up at the end of the year, although the Cardinals also have an option on him at $7 million. You're talking about 2 teams here who could look significantly different in 2012 than they do right now with a number of contracts that are expiring. Especially the Cardinals. They've got a lot of guys who are potentially up at the end of the year, including that guy. And you know, earlier in the season, a lot of talk about would the Cubs go after Albert Pujols? Would the Cubs go after Prince Fielder, who's also a free agent at the end of the season? But when Tom Ricketts talks, both to us last half inning and to anybody when he's giving interviews, he talks a lot more about player development than he does about signing free agents. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to go after somebody, but it doesn't seem to be a slam dunk that the Cubs will wind up with one of those 2 first basemen.
I don't think he was signing Mark Pryor there, because he's already been developed through this organization, but that is really a great way to go. And you know, you saw Mike Quaddy start runners last inning. I wouldn't be surprised if Tony La Russa does the same here.
Fly ball to right. Racing back, Colvin running out of room. Gone. Second home run of the game for Yadier Molina.
Dan Molina cut through the wind when he hit a line drive home run to left, and this time he let the wind aid the fly ball for his second home run of the day to right.
The 4th home run off Rodrigo Lopez will signal the end of his night. It's 5-2 Cardinals. Left-hander James Russell is on his way in after Molina takes Lopez deep for the second time in this game. Second career multi-home run game for Yadier Molina, the first one coming back in 2007 against the Brewers. Fourth home run of the night for the Cardinals and a 5-2 lead for the visitors as left-hander James Russell comes into the game, the son of a man who pitched for Bobby at one point, Jeff Russell.
Matter of fact, Jeff Russell was Fireman of the Year with the Texas Rangers. I saw Jamie grow up for many years.
He was Jamie back then?
He was young Jamie then.
Do you call him James now?
No, he's James.
Here's Descalso. And James throws a strike. Jeff had some good years.
Oh, he had some good years. He had a great arm. Came over from Cincinnati in a Buddy Bell trade to the Texas Rangers. He's a right-hander. James is the left-hander, obviously. And Dan, you know, during those Texas days, one of my mentors, Bobby Bragan, the great late Bobby Bragan, would always say that in a losing game, a pitcher is either taken out too soon or left in too long. You know, after that 10-pitch at bat that John had against Lopez, I think the entire dugout knew that Lopez was at the end of his rope.
Fair ball. Descalso makes the turn on his way to second and in there easily with a double.
But it really was the inability to hit the corners that was the problem that Lopez had. He had a little sinker there that's hit well, a hanging fastball there, a hanging fastball there for 3 of the home runs, and the changeup that just stays in the middle of the plate.
Here's Westbrook. You don't hear the phrase hanging fastball that often. It doesn't seem to be complimentary.
It's not complimentary. It's actually a little sarcastic.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
I know. Velocity only 87, 88, and I mean, he couldn't have split the play more if he tried with those 2 fastballs that were hit out by Molina and Pujols. .35, well traveled.
Maybe auditioning tonight, Dan.
For next year.
Or even for this year on a waiver claim.
Well, with Carlos Zambrano out of the picture, at least temporarily, you know, maybe there's a spot available.
There's a spot available for him, but that spot will be taken by some young arms.
Yeah. Bouncer in the hole at short. Going to be a long throw. Safe at first, and over to third on the play goes Descalso.
Well, tonight, Castro's ranged very wide to his right twice. Once with Holiday hitting, and that time with Westbrook. And neither time did he really know the speed of the runner. He could have set his feet and made a better throw on this, even though he knows he could just field it as he's moving and then step onto the right foot here, turn and throw, and he has plenty of arm to get there. There's the step on the right foot and throw. As he leaps into the air, that's what gives him the power to get it across the diamond. But he had a little more time than he really executed.
Skip Schumacher, the batter.
Chicago came back and scored a run last inning, being very aggressive on the base pass. That was a great sign for them. And then they come out and allow the game to get away from them here in the top half of the inning.
Found back out of play. 1-1 the count on Schumacher. Lopez giving up 4 home runs. The only other Cub pitcher to give up that many or more this year, Zambrano. 5 against Atlanta, then hit Chipper Jones. Cleaned out his locker, threatened to retire. Let's go down to Buster Olney. Buster, some of Tom Ricketts' comments about Zambrano getting a lot of play on Twitter, you say?
Yeah, because he said he can't imagine that Carlos Zambrano will pitch for the Cubs again. He said, of course, he's going to let that play out before making that decision.
There's Schumacher with a fly ball to right. Colvin back, makes the catch, tagging at third, Descalso. He'll come in to score. Another run for the Cardinals. Back down to Buster.
Now that process is currently there's a grievance that's been filed by the union on behalf of Carlos Zambrano. He's going to have a hearing. According to sources I communicated with today, they say that hearing has not been scheduled. At some point, if he wins that hearing, the arbitrator could say he needs to be reinstated, but that doesn't guarantee that he'll ever pitch for the Cubs again.
So the issue would be, even if Zambrano is allowed to come back, if the Cubs have to take him back, would they pitch him or would they try to unload him maybe in the offseason to anybody who would eat any portion of the contract? Certainly going to be one of the big off-season storylines for the Chicago Cubs. We'll step aside. Double switch. We'll give you the changes when we come back. Dan Shulman to Bobby Valentine back with you at Wrigley Field. The Cardinals have upped the lead to 6-2 now on the Cubs, forcing another pitching change. Mike Quade brings in right-hander Jeff Samardzija, who has been pitching well, has given up just 3 earned runs dating back to the 28th of June. That covers 27 appearances. And you can put Samardzija into the 5 spot in the lineup. This is a double switch as Blake DeWitt has taken over in left field for Reed Johnson. DeWitt now batting 9th. Three runs in this inning for the Cardinals, including the 2nd home run of the night by Yadier Molina that chased Rodrigo Lopez. Russell faced 3 batters. Now Samardzija faces Freese and starts it with a slider for a strike. Westbrook is the runner at first, credited with an infield hit earlier this inning, despite a good effort by Starlin Castro. Castro charges and across the diamond to end the inning. 3 more runs for the Cardinals. They've hit 4 homers tonight and they lead 6-2.
My son was young.
Cardinals 6, Cubs 2. Sunday night baseball on ESPN from Wrigley Field. Final game of the series. The Cubs winning the first 2. The Cardinals, if they win tonight, will be 8.5 back of Milwaukee. The Brewers won again today. Beat the Mets 6-2. As Marlon Byrd leads off the inning for Chicago, wearing that protective flap that covers the left side of his face after suffering multiple facial fractures hit by a pitch a couple of months ago. Says they've all healed fine, and he is fine wearing the flap. Doesn't bother him at all. Said he might even wear it next year.
I hope he does.
You think this is something that is coming, right?
Absolutely. Yeah? It's an absolute necessity of the evolution of the protective gear that we should all be wearing from Little League on up to make sure that bones aren't broken in our face.
Bouncer to short. 1 down. It was back on May the 21st. One of the scariest incidents we've seen this year. One of the scariest incidents you can see in a major league game. Alfredo Aceves. Fastball up and in. And Byrd in agony immediately. And missed a couple of months. And you could see, you know it's bad when the other players on the field
are cringing.
Yeah, are
yes.
turning away. I mean, they've seen a lot, and they could not look. Now, what were batting helmets like? You broke into the big leagues in
1969.
69. What were batting helmets like?
69. You had a helmet. Most players had a helmet that looked just like the baseball cap. Now, Ron Santo in 1963, 6 years before I broke in, was wearing an air flap here playing for the Cubs.
Base hit into center field for Colvin. Let's give you a bit of a visual look at the evolution of the batting helmet. 1940, just a little padding under your baseball cap, and batting helmets were optional up until 1971. Now the Pirates, that's Ralph Kiner, big home run champion, using a batting helmet in 1952, but they were optional until 1971, and even once they came in then the ear flap was optional for many years. The ear flap until 83, but if you were already in the majors,
grandfathered in.
Right, grandfathered in, and you could go without an ear flap for the rest of your career. You see David Wright on the left because after he was hit in the head, kind of an experimental batting helmet with more padding on the inside of it. Deflected by Westbrook, and they wind up turning the 1-6-4-3 inning-ending double play. 6 in the books at Wrigley, 6-2 Cardinals.
Whatever.
Fan Cave concert series. Fans were able to watch the performance on MLBFanCave.com and MLB.com. The performance also streamed to U.S. Cellular Field in Chicago and Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City. Their hit Party Rock, big favorite of Bobby's, is currently #2 on the Billboard Top 100.
Yeah, it boxes my head up.
What was that, said Tom Archer at our meeting today. What is the meaning of that?
It's a TV head.
Here's Albert Pujols. He's having quite a night. 3 for 3, including a home run. His 31st of the season. And he's raised his average 5 points tonight, up to 288. Top of the 7th inning. We'll be staying for Take Me Out to the Ball Game during the 7th inning stretch tonight at Wrigley. Always one of the highlights for people who come to the ballpark. Pujols trying to inch that average up closer and closer to 300. Bird comes over to make the catch, 1 down. Boy, we saw something, or you saw something, Bobby, alerted us to this about an inning ago. You don't ever see it. You don't want to see it. What happened here?
Well, Tom Ricketts mentioned he wanted to see player development. Well, sometimes you have to develop players at the major league level, and one of the things you have to teach them is always watch the ball. Wherever the ball is, you have to be looking. Castro's thinking about his at-bats or thinking about the play that was made, and
there's a base hit into center field for Holiday.
And something like that is absolutely inexcusable at the major league level. This is a teaching moment where Ivan De Jesus came in and talked to him about the throw that he made on Westbrook, but he didn't talk to him about having his head down. Infielders can't be walking around with your head down. Infielders have to always know where the ball is and always have your head up. And what you need to do to motivate players is you need to reward them when they do well, and you need to reprimand them when they don't. This was an instant that needed reprimand, and I think it went unnoticed.
Here's Lance Berkman. Do you just chalk it up to the,
no.
youth, or
no? It's not a chalk up.
It's a biggie.
It's not a mulligan.
Yeah.
When you're at a major league field and that happens, something has to be addressed. It must be addressed as soon as possible.
A guy there as that skips off the glove of Soto, and Holiday will take second. It's a core guy. I mean, it's one of the most important people they've got on their roster.
And one of the best players there is. And what he does that will aggravate people, and he needs to stop doing it, is he's looking down all the time. He wants to look down and think about things as he's walking. What he needs to have is an awareness of everything around him, the ball, his teammates, the opposition, and not be thinking about what happened or what's going to happen, but get into the moment.
He's only 21, but especially because there could be changes at third and first where they've got veterans right now. I mean, at some point, you kind of naturally look to the shortstop for some leadership and some stability and some guidance out on the infield as well.
Yes, and other players look at a star player like him and try to see how the management is developing him. Tom Rickett mentioned player development. Put your glove on your hand. This is player development. Keep your head up. This is player development. He did make an excellent move on the pickoff play after the runner got to second base. He has shown great range. He is leading the National League with the most hits. He's a wonderful talent, but he needs to learn to play the game and play it properly.
You know, even on that pitch, as Samardzija is beginning his windup, Castro is reaching into his back pocket for sunflower seeds.
Yep, I've seen that 5 times, and I don't mean to kill him, because he obviously has been allowed to do many things like this during the game. Those type of, I don't care what's going on, I'll put some seeds in my ear when I'm in my mouth when I'm supposed to be getting set for the ball. I won't be in the right cutoff position. If those things are allowed to exist, it forms a cancer within the team. Then the catcher will just reach for a ball and let it go off his glove. Then the outfielder will miss the cutoff man when he needs to hit a cutoff man, and the pitcher will miss the sign with a man on second. Here's John Jay, who's having a really good night at the plate.
I don't want to sidetrack you. You got some good stuff going here. I mean, well, we've all watched the Little League World Series this week.
Yes.
We see 12-year-olds, and those kids get down in a defensive stance on every pitch. They are told to, and they do it.
Yes.
And here he is again.
Yes.
Glove off his hand.
This is, I don't mean to be redundant, but it's all about player development. There was a foul ball that was hit. Barney was moving in the direction of the foul ball as it was hit. Castro was standing flat-footed as it was hit. Again, you must develop the small skills for the player to develop into the great player.
Okay, so Bobby, let's say you're managing him. He's the youngest player on your team. He's probably the most talented player on your team, and he may be the most frustrating player on your team to you. At what point does the reprimand come with some consequences?
Well, there needs to be consequences, but there also needs to be an excitement about teaching him. This is the type of player, it's like a math genius coming into your geometry class and knowing that he understands math and he's going to learn a new level of math while you're teaching him geometry. The major leagues is a new level of baseball. This young man has great talents. He knows how to play the game, but he doesn't know how to play the major league game.
Swing and a miss, and Jay is gone 2 down. Do you need an older player to help out in teaching Castro how to handle himself like a big leaguer?
Everything that is voiced to players needs to be voiced to them in stereo. It can't be just one person saying what is right and what is wrong. You need to have your disciples on your coaching staff, and you need to have your disciples on the bench in uniform who are preaching the same gospel, so he's hearing it in stereo and he's hearing it continually. You never let them go. Probably my favorite and most aggravating line to my coaches over the years that I managed it was when I'd say, "Why is he doing that?" And they would tell me, "Well, I told him so." And I would say, "You didn't tell him enough. Tell him again." And then again until they get the message.
You know, it's interesting from our vantage point here, now that you've kind of alerted us to this. You look at Castro at short, you look at Barney at second, and you see how much earlier Barney sets up for every pitch than Castro does. Every pitch.
And as the ball is fouled off, or as it's being swung at as an outside or inside pitch, Barney is moving and anticipating where that ball's being hit. Castro's waiting for it to be hit and then trying to initiate his movement.
Barney will get a chance and make the play. 7th inning stretch at Wrigley as the Cardinals leave a couple of men on. Interesting stuff about Starlin Castro. The Cardinals lead the Cubs 6-2, and we'll keep it right here at Wrigley Field for the 7th inning stretch.
1, 2, 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, for it's shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Let's get some runs.
Keith Moreland, former big leaguer, spent half a dozen seasons in the Cub uniform. On the 7th inning stretch, among other things, one of the lasting memories provided by Harry Carey, the Hall of Fame broadcaster for so many years for the Chicago Cubs. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by the Volkswagen Autobahn for all events. Hurry in before the deals hurry out. And Mike's Hard Lemonade for a refreshing change of taste. Make it a Mike's. Dan Shulman to Bobby Valentine, Buster Olney, Pedro Gomez. All here in Chicago. The Cardinals lead the Cubs 6-2 in the finale of this 3-game series as the Cardinals try to avoid a sweep and get back to 8.5 back of the incredibly, ridiculously hot Milwaukee Brewers, who have won 22 of their last 25 games. Their pitching has been off the charts in recent weeks, and with Braun, Fielder, and company, they can swing the bats pretty well too. Blake DeWitt will lead it off. Came on in a double switch at left field. He'll be followed by Starlin Castro and then Darwin Barney. DeWitt hitting in the 9 spot. And we talked a little bit earlier about the National League MVP race. No clear-cut candidate, I don't think, right now. You look at the teams leading their divisions: and Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Arizona, Atlanta also seemingly on their way to the playoffs as DeWitt will ground out 3-1. Is there a front runner in your mind right now, Bobby, for the National League MVP, and is he on this list?
Yeah, he's on this list, and it's these two guys right here on the left side. I think they're co-MVPs right now, and I would love to see them split the vote and get the vote. Of course, Upton is really trying to single-handedly keep his team in first place and carry them into the playoffs. And Matt Kemp might be the player of the year when you add in his stolen bases and his defense. But remember, Braun also will have over 30 stolen bases when this year is over, and has played an improved defense in left field.
You know, Ryan Howard, another guy we could certainly mention. He's closing in on 100 RBIs already on a team that's headed to the postseason. Here's Castro. Well, we certainly talked a lot about him defensively. Now at the plate, it's a sharp ground ball to short and is thrown out for out number 2. Castro now 1 for 3 with a walk. Do you think that he's got fewer bad habits at the plate? I mean, obviously, again, tremendously talented, leading the league in hits right now. Is he further along as a hitter right now than he is as a fielder?
Yes, and I think he enjoys hitting more. I think he gets more satisfaction out of hitting, and he has to be made aware of how much fun it could be to be the guy at shortstop that everyone needs him to be.
Darwin Barney, the batter.
This is a guy who's made 21 errors so far this year, many of them errors of aggression, which you don't mind from a young player, where he's going outside of his zone, making throws he shouldn't make, throwing the ball out of position and not knowing the speed of the runner. But it's those errors of omission which drive you crazy, and if you omit doing the proper thing on the proper play, you're not going to contribute to a winning cause.
A little looping pop-up into shallow center field. Just like that, the inning is over. 7 completed Wrigley, still 6-2 Cardinals.
Drop it.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Dan Shulman and Bobby Valentine with you here at Wrigley Field. Oral Hershiser is in Williamsport covering the Little League World Series. A 6-2 lead for the Cardinals over the Cubs as we go to the 8th inning. And a new pitcher for Chicago, left-hander John Grabo, becomes the 4th pitcher of the night for the Cubs. Daniel Descalso will lead it off for St. Louis. And drive the first pitch to deep center. And caught just shy of the ivy by Marlon Byrd. What a nice play.
Dan, we've talked about getting jumps on the ball. Well, Marlon Byrd always gets jumps on foul balls as well as hit balls, and this is a ball hit right at him over his head. He breaks immediately back, and he's looking over his left shoulder. As he turns back, and people think of that as a 360, he gains ground right here as he turns, knowing where the ball's going to be, and reaches out and makes a fine catch. That's as hard a play as an outfielder has. Marlon Byrd did it extremely well.
Pinch hitter is Alan Craig. He will bat in the pitcher spot, so Jake Westbrook's night is done. Jason Mott is throwing in the pen for the Cardinals. Craig, a big contributor early in the season for St. Louis before suffering a fractured kneecap back a few weeks ago. Now a utility guy, not playing every day, has started games in 5 different positions, including a game in center field earlier this week. Now a ball got loose from the bullpen, so a bit of a delay. And there's Mott up in the pen.
That's not Mott. Yes, it is.
Yeah, he's been pitching very well lately. A pop-up. Barney. 2 down. A good night's work for Jake Westbrook.
Outstanding night for Jake Westbrook. His control was spotty at times. His command was in and out of the strike zone, but he made his pitches when he had to. Cubs expand the strike zone as well as any team in baseball.
Schumacher with a bouncer, another play for Barney, and just like that, the inning is over. Grabo gets him quickly to the bottom of the 8th. Cubs coming up down 4. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. And in part by Nissan. Innovation for today, innovation for tomorrow, innovation for all. This weekend, the Chicago Air and Water Show, the largest and oldest free show of its kind in the United States. The U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds were among the performers this year. An estimated 2 million people attended this weekend in Chicago. First pitch swinging, and Aramis Ramirez flies out. For out number 1 here in the bottom of the 8th, the Cardinals lead 6-2 as Jason Mott has come into the game for St. Louis, now riding a streak, Bobby, of 18 2/3 consecutive innings without allowing an earned run.
And he's doing it with an explosive fastball. He comes in and comes right after hitters. He's exactly what you want as a setup man out of your bullpen. He attacks hitters, and he's been very successful with his walk and strikeout ratio as well as his hits to innings pitched.
The batter, Carlos Pena. Pena tonight 0 for 3, a ground out and a couple of fly balls. A reminder, we've got a doubleheader for you on Wednesday night this week. Red Sox Rangers at 7 Eastern, White Sox Angels at 10 Eastern, and then 1 week from tonight, our Sunday night game, the Angels and the Rangers in the rapidly tightening up American League West race, down to 4 games right now. And don't forget, Wednesday night on ESPN, it'll be Jared Weaver scheduled to start for the Angels. If you missed it earlier, Buster Olney reporting that Jason Stark reported that Jared Weaver just signed a 5-year deal with the Angels. And there they are, just 4 back after they beat Baltimore again today, and Texas lost to the White Sox again today. So don't count the Angels out just yet. Looking ahead for the Angels and Rangers. 6 head-to-head games remaining between those two teams, again including a series next weekend. We'll be there for Sunday night. The advanced forecast says 107. You manage there. You should be all right with it.
Oh, it'll be hot, and that race is going to get hot, and that race will be determined by how the young Texas Rangers starting pitching staff is going to hold up in that heat throughout these really tough dog days of the pennant race.
Derek Holland got knocked around a little bit today, but they've got Holland and Harrison and Argando, some guys who are young right at the beginning of their careers.
Yeah, and Wilson's trying to lead that staff, a very good athlete.
Fly ball to right field. Pena retired. Bobby, just giving some numbers. Your numbers at Wrigley Field. 18 games you played here.
Not bad.
You hit 327.
Wow. They must have been just telling me what was coming.
The good news is, there's more good news. You hit a home run.
I did hit a home run here.
The bad news is, do you remember who you hit it off of?
No.
Okay, you hit it. You were with San Diego.
Yeah.
You hit it off Ramon Hernandez, I'm told.
Yes.
It was 22-2 for the other guys.
For the bad guys.
At the time you hit the home run. That made it 22-4.
It was a big pitch.
It was a big home
big
run.
at bat. I mean, I rose to the occasion. I rose right to the occasion.
And the final,
was it a 2-run homer to keep us off the snide?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
So you didn't get mercy. And the final was 23-6. But do you remember it? Do you remember vaguely hitting a home run in this ballpark?
No, but I do remember getting my last hit against Ramon Hernandez right here as a base hit in the left field for the San Diego Padres.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tony Campana is the pinch hitter. What, did you like playing here?
I loved playing here. I really believe when you walk out onto the field, when you walk through the dugout, it's a different feeling. It's a fantasy land. I mean, all of Major League Baseball is a fantasy land, of course, but this one was in particular because of the ivy and the fans being so close and standing on the on-deck circle where you're 3 feet away from the front row. It's just special.
Can't get much closer than that.
No, and very often you're talking with the fans. Someone will say something to you. You can say hello, and you really have to watch those foul balls too, because you're all of, like you see, 23, 24 feet away.
Swing and a miss. 1-2 on Campana.
Tony Campana is one of the fastest players in the league, and he really brings excitement to the game. He can hit a bloop and turn it into a double, hit a ground ball, turn it into a single when he's on the bases. He steals bases at will, even at this level. I think he's going to be a contributor in the future.
Strikes out here to end the inning. Mott gets him in order. 8 complete. 6-2 Cardinals.
327 here.
Cardinals up 6-2 as we go to the top of the 9th here at Wrigley Field. Bayer Advanced Aspirin wants you to know that for the rest of the season, Bayer will be donating $10 to the Red Cross for every strike thrown at 95 miles per hour or faster. For more information, log on to speedupyourrelief.com. That means they made a donation when Jason Mott was out on the mound in the bottom of the 8th, that's for sure. Here's a new pitcher for the Cubs, Ramon Ortiz, to face Freese, Pujols, and Holiday. And a breaking ball for a strike. Freese tonight 1 for 4, had a base hit back in the first inning. Long run over for Colvin, but no play. Fernando Salas is up in the Cardinal pen. So he'll get a chance to work here in the bottom of the 9th. And a check swing foul off over near that first base dugout. Story tonight really has been the power shown by Tony La Russa's Cardinals. John Jay and Yadier Molina homered on consecutive pitches in the second. Albert Pujols hit a rocket into the seats in left field in the 5th, and then Molina hit his 2nd home run of the game, a 2-run shot in the 6th. And home runs have scored 5 of their 6 runs. Second multi-home run game of Yadier Molina's big league career. Haven't had the double play problem tonight they've had a lot this year. They've just hit him into the seats. Colvin back with room, 1 down.
It wasn't like they were hitting great pitches. This is a pitch that's decent, but it's in the middle of the plate. And this is not decent. It's middle and in the sweet zone. This is right down the middle for Albert. And this is a changeup that stays in the middle of the plate. So at this level, against a great hitting team like the Cardinals, leading the league in hitting, you have to hit the corners. When they come down the middle, they usually become souvenirs.
Pujols was responsible for one of those souvenirs tonight, his 31st home run of the season. We saw folks back in the 1st inning, 2 Cub fans wearing Cub jerseys with Pujols' name and number on the back. A little wishful thinking for the future with Pujols on his way to free agency and a 4-hit night.
On his way to 300, on his way to 100 RBIs to go with those 30+ home runs that he already has. This is a ball that's he's just a little fooled on, but because he stays balanced and he keeps the bat in the zone, you see this lag time with the bat coming here, he's able to stay on the ball in line drive, base hit, and he's up to 289 with that little swing. Like a snowball rolling down the side of a snow-covered hill. It's growing. Huh?
Here's Matt Holliday. His updated numbers: has hit 300 or better, 30 or more homers, and 100 or more RBIs in all of his 10 major league seasons. Nobody's ever done that, and he's still got a shot at doing it here in season number 11. Despite, for him, a dismal start to the season and spending a couple of weeks on the DL after the wrist injury.
And this year he's hit 60 at a rate of 6.8 home runs for every 10 games that he's played, and if he continues to play every game the rest of the season, he will get 100 RBIs. Did I say that right?
Yes.
No. Yes? 6.8 RBIs in every 10 games.
If he continues driving in runs at the rate he's driven them in,
yes,
he'll get there.
He'll get to 100.
Now, there's no disputing that his numbers are not what they normally are. Right now, batting average is at a career low. On base percentage, slugging percentage, doubles, intentional walks. But they don't care. They want him here. And you could imagine the kind of numbers Pujols could put up in a ballpark like this. But who knows if Pujols will stay in St. Louis or sign with somebody else. As we mentioned, he's done something nobody else has ever done. 10 straight seasons of a 300 batting average, 30 homers, and 100 RBIs. Lou Gehrig, 9 in a row. Babe Ruth, 8 in a row. Albert, 10, and maybe on his way to number 11. And for Pujols, the streak started with his rookie season. He's done it every year he's been in the big leagues.
And so with a franchise like the Chicago Cubs, the debate will rev up as to whether to spend this $200 million plus that the Rickett family might have or must have and give it to one player, or spend that money on the player development side.
Ground ball to third, and there's another double play hit into by the Cardinals. Major League leading 137th hit into this season, but they've got a 6-2 lead going to the bottom of the 9th.
For the work.
Back for the bottom of the ninth here at Wrigley with Bobby Valentine. I'm Dan Schulman. It's Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell here on ESPN. The Cardinals lead 6-2. 3 outs away from moving back within 8.5 of Milwaukee in the National League Central. Milwaukee beating the Mets 6-2 earlier today. The Brewers have won 22 of 25. Corey Patterson is in the game now in right field for St. Louis. Marlon Byrd leads off the bottom of the ninth for the Cubs. Byrd tonight 0 for 3, a couple of ground outs and a fly ball. The Cubs 2 runs on 7 hits tonight. A good night for Jake Westbrook and an overpowering 8th inning for Jason Amott. Count 0-2 here.
This is not a save opportunity for Salas, who's been their closer, but every game needs to be saved here on out for the St. Louis Cardinals, regardless of the score. So he's in there to preserve this lead, get his team in the win column.
To center field, and a fine running catch out there by John Jay, who's had a busy night. The action continues from Williamsport tomorrow. The Little League World Series presented by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes continues on both ESPN and ESPN2 tomorrow. These are elimination games. All 4 of these U.S. teams have already lost once, cannot afford to lose again. Georgia, Kentucky at 4 on ESPN. Louisiana and Pennsylvania. Clinton County just 28 miles away from Williamsport. They'll have the crowd on their side tomorrow night 8 Eastern on ESPN2. And a Wednesday night Major League doubleheader as the Red Sox take on the Rangers. Red Sox and Rangers at 7 Eastern, and then the White Sox and Angels at 10 Eastern on ESPN. A Major League doubleheader Wednesday night. Tyler Colvin the batter, 1 for 2 with a walk. Mark Zepchinski, left-hander, is up in the Cardinal pen just in case. Came over in the Colby Rasmus deal with Toronto. Or maybe just getting some throwing in. He hasn't worked very much recently at all for the Cardinals. Has become more of a middle to long reliever since the acquisition of Arthur Rhodes. Another play for Jay. John Jay with a home run tonight. 7 putouts as well. Yadier Molina's hit 2 home runs tonight. And Albert Pujols got in on the fun as well with his 31st of the season. 4 homers for the Cardinals, accounting for 5 of their 6 runs. Up to Giovanni Soto to try to keep it going for the Cubs. Pop back out of play. The count 1-2. Even with a win tonight, obviously it's an extremely difficult challenge for the Cardinals. Still 8.5 back in Milwaukee. Tonight, Chevrolet player of the game, Yadier Molina. 2 home runs tonight, a second career multi-homer game. 6 games left between the Cardinals and Brewers. And St. Louis will win it, avoid the sweep, and finish the day where they started the day, 8.5 back of Milwaukee in the National League Central. 4 homers for the Cardinals. Good pitching by Westbrook, Mott, and Salas. And the Cubs are denied a sweep as the Cardinals salvage the final game of this series. An updated look at the standings after Milwaukee's win earlier today over the Mets. St. Louis winning tonight. St. Louis still 8.5 back, and that's where they are in the wild card race as well. Atlanta won earlier today, I should say, 1-0 over Arizona. So there's a big job ahead of them. The Cardinals still have 5 weeks left to try to pull off a miracle. The final score, the Cardinals 6 and the Cubs 2, up next on ESPN and SportsCenter. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Bobby Valentine, Buster Olney, Pedro Gomez, and our entire ESPN crew,